Good morning, students. I welcome you for the online class of economics. Today, I will be going to explain you the first chapter of Indian economic development. As I already explained to you that you can purchase the book of Saraswati publication or wiki or ebook for the Indian economic development. So let us learn about the Indian economic development. Indian economic development students, in this particular book we will be going to learn all the topics related to the matter which was done after the independence, how the progress of India was done, how the economic development of our country was seen. That all the things are written in this particular book, that is Indian economic development. So let us learn about this chapter, student. Indian economy on the eve of independence. Very first part will be the introduction. Second will be the economic development on the eve of independence. The third will be agriculture sector on the eve of independence. Fourth will be industrial sector on the eve of independence. Then the foreign trade, demographic condition on the eve of independence, infrastructure, occupational structure, conclusion. So let us start our chapter with the introduction part. The very first introduction states that the Indian economic development started at the Battle of Plassey, which was fought in the year 1757. Okay, this was the battle when the after which the not only the situation of our country but many other country who were there were were severely become sick, economic sick. So let us see what was economic Battle of Plassey. The Battle of Plassey fought in 1757 changed the destiny of our country. After this battle, the British colonial rule started and lasted for about 200 years. British rule is a long story of the systematic exploitation by an imperialistic government of people whom they have enslaved by their policy of divide and rule. These things, students, you have already learned in your histories past. What you have learned, a simple story is there. Whenever a battle happens, only a disaster takes place, only the losses take place, nothing is good. So that only happened there, and you can see from the story that Battle of Plassey. After that, India's condition was very worst because colonial rule started and it lasted for 200 years. 200 years people suffer under the British rule, and then we got the freedom what we are enjoying now. Okay, the benefits of British rule were only incidental, accidental. The nothing was good. Like for example, railways, which is a gift of British, because they only established railways in India, but not for our use. They had established railway for their use, but now it become an advantage of ours. They had established it with a great efforts, but with our people and their people. But after that, it was utilized by us when they left their country. So it is an accidental benefit, not intentionally. They had put the railways for our purpose. The main motive of all British policies was to serve the interest of England. Thus, in 1947, when the British transferred power back to India, we inherited a crippled economy. In the words of Jawaharlal Nehru, India became a passive agent of modern industrial capitalism, suffering all its ills and with hardly any of its advantages. Economic development on the eve of independence. The economic policy purchased by the colonial government in India were concerned with more with the protection and promotion of the economic interest of the home country than with the development of Indian economy. The colonial government never made any sincere attempt to estimate India's national and per capita income. Some individual attempts were made to measure a national and per capita income to know about Indian financial status, whether we can do anything or not. It was done by many peoples. The name of the people are follows: Dadabhai Nehruji, William Digby, Finland Cyrus, V.K.R.V. Rao, and R.C. Desai. These are the people who find that economic status of India must be known, and for that economic parameter must be established um, to measure the economic development of our country. The first estimate which was made by of national income and per capita income was made by whom? Dadabhai Nehruji in the year 1876 for the year 1867 to 68. Okay, Per capita income is per person, the income of the person was known, because if we will be knowing it, we came to know all the Indians as income, definitely we will be able to know the income of our country. So per capita income is needed so that we can later find out the income of the nation. So that was done. It was published in the book Poverty and British Rule in India to highlight the problems of poverty in India. He estimated national income to be rupees 340 crore and per capita income to be rupees 20 in 1867 to 68. First estimate of national and per capita income was prepared by Dharlabhai Nehruji, that you have to remember. And the first scientific estimate was made by Professor V.K.R.V. Rao for the year 1931 to 32. Let us see. So it was complete. So scientifically, who calculated? V.K.R.V. Rao, and manually who seen that was the Dadabhai Nehruji. And V.K.R.V. Rao, he established how much was their national income, that is rupees 16,000 1689 crore, and per capita income was rupees 62. It was much more higher, but it was also so many years after he had calculated, means 1931 to 32, and Dadabhai calculated it already at the time of 1757. Till 1931 already some scientific things was established in our country, so we can count it likewise. Now comes the agriculture sector on the eve of independence. What was the situation of agriculture at the time of independence? The Indian economy during British colonial rule was primarily an agricultural country, you know very well. Even after the independence, the main occupation of our country was agriculture, because people were not civilized, people were not literate, people were not having any other option. All were having the piece of land, and some are not having, but still they know how to grow crops, and they were hiring the land of others. So the main occupation at that time was agriculture. So our economic development was totally dependent on what thing? The agriculture. But the thing was that that time our country faced many type of, not only the economic disaster, but also climatic disaster or natural disaster, you can say. And because of that, the problem of Indian farmers was very worst. Let's see this thing in the agricultural sector on the eve of independence. The Indian economy during British colonial rule was primarily an agricultural economy. Almost 85% of the country's population lived in villages in that period and derived its livelihood directly or indirectly through agriculture. Despite being the major source of livelihood, the agriculture sector continued to experience stagnation and deterioration during British rule. Deterioration, stagnation means nothing was developed. Their condition was as worst as it was. State of Indian agriculture sector on the eve of independence was as follows. Very first state of Indian agriculture independence was weak productive accumulation. At the time of independence, the the agriculture the production, the income of production were defective. There were insufficient use of fertilizers, machines, and defectives, etc. All these lead to weak productive accumulation. Because it means nothing was good with them during the agriculture, during the after the independence and before the independence, so that they can do any good production. Next, unemployment and underemployment. Poor capital formation agriculture led to rise in unemployment and underemployment. Yes, people first of all, at least they were having agriculture job, but after seeing these poor technique and poor machineries and all, they were just going to be unemployed. Unemployed means creating a situation of poverty more, and still worse condition was there, that where they were underemployed. Lower level of production and productivity. The condition of farmers was so bad, so poor, that they cannot nourish themselves, they cannot have good food for themselves. If they were not starving body, if they are having so many deficiency, definitely they cannot think of doing job, they cannot do good agriculture, their stamina will decrease for doing agriculture. And that time good stamina was needed. Though they were doing it, the agriculture, but still they were themselves not having good food to have, no incentive to work. It led to poor productivity of labor. Agriculture production in India was less than its demand. It production only 508 lakh tons of food grains in 1947 to 1948. At that time, just 1 hectare of land was under cultivation. Subdivisions of whole land holdings. Landholding is defined as the area of which a person or a family owns. It could be one piece of land or a number or a no, number of small scattered pieces of land. Okay. At the times of independence, prevailed was division, subdivision, and fragmentation of landholdings. That was the story. Subdivision of landholdings. Indian agriculture was primitive and stagnant. The main causes of stagnant of agriculture sector was as follows. Very first, land tenure system. The land tenure system says that there were three forms of land tenure system introduced by the British rulers in India. These were very first Jamindari system, Malwari system, and Otwari system. In the Jamindari system, I will only explaining the Jamindari system. Later part we will be going to learn at the end of the chapter the Malwari and Otwari system. Jamindari system, when we talk students, there are the Jamindars or landlords, were the owners of the land. They were so people. They were the rich people of the village. What any person who is having financial problem and having piece of land, they were owing this land to the jamindars and they were getting money. Jamindar charges taxes over the people for giving loan on the basis of land. These people were called as jamindars. The actual collection by jamindars was much higher than what they have to pay to the government. Jamindari system led to multiplication middlemen between cultivators and government. Absentee landlord exploitation of peasants by unsympathetic agents and enmity. It landlords and tenants. Under this system, intermediary benefited cost of both actual cultivators and the state. For more details, we have to see at the last of the chapter. So they were the Jamindar student. They were charging um, not 3 times, 4 times, 10 times more than the tax which they have to pay to the government. So that was a poor condition made by the jamindar of the farmers, and they were exploiting the cultivators till their life end. So that was a system, jamindari system. Next comes commercialization of agriculture. When we talk about commercialization of agriculture, it means whatever production was done by the farmer, it was for sale. So that was known as commercialization of agriculture. Nothing they were producing for themselves. All the thing whatever they were producing, it was for sale. So commercialization of agriculture means production of crop for sale in the market rather than consumption. Farmers were forced to cultivate commercial crops like indigo. Indigo was of no use of the Indian farmers and Indian people, because even they were not having good dresses to wear. They were having simple dhoti and kurta. What they will be doing of indigo? Indigo is a element which is used for coloring the dress, which is basically provide blue color, which was the need of the British people. They were having the blue color dresses. Indigo was required by the textile industry in Britain for dyeing the textile. As a result, there was fall in the production of food crops. Only the Indian farmer can grow the indigo, because here the best indigo can be grown. So they were forced to grow indigo instead of agriculture product. So that was another bad situation. If they can grow their crops, they can have some food what they're producing, but they have to grow only the indigo, which is of no use, no purpose. So that was a commercialization of agriculture was done, means agriculture was grown not for mere use of their own self consumption but for sale. So that was known as commercialization of agriculture. They have to suffer from frequent occurrence of famine also, drought situation. Indian agriculture was transformed into a raw material exporting sector for England, been explained in Amartya Sen's book Poverty and Famines. Partition of the country in 1947 also adversely affected India's agriculture production. Dividation. Earlier, before independence, Pakistan, Bangladesh, these were all the part of our own country. Asian nations. Okay, but after when the independence was going to happen, these countries they themselves separated from India. A major part of Indian agricultural land and good production areas was taken away to Bangladesh and Pakistan. Again, India have to face a very bad situation after the independence. So that was a story partition of the country. So partition of country taken in 1947, you know very well, which is the independence year for us, also adversely affected India's agriculture production. The rich fruit producing areas of West Punjab and Sindh went into Pakistan. It created food crisis in the country. Also, the whole of fertile and under jute production went to East Pakistan. The jute industry was most severely affected due to partition. Thus, Indian agriculture became backward, stagnant, and non-vibrant under the British rule. For today's class, student, this much only. Next class, we will be going to learn industrial sector on the eve of independence. Thank you for today's class. Have a nice day.